sell yet another service pack. But that is the business model. And if you look back at the engineering spiral, there's this bonus phase over here of deployment. That every time you go around the spiral, you have the opportunity to release something and sell it. And drive your revenue forward and get real user feedback while you are continuing to iterate your solution. So how does this apply to you? Because you don't build spacecraft and you don't write operating systems. That's okay. Here's the spiral business model. Using just the same steps, but a little bit maybe easier to remember. And this is true whether you are developing a physical product, a software solution, or a service for your clients. If you are a service provider, every single time you bring on a new client, whether you're a real estate agent or you're in financial services, you have an opportunity to go around the spiral again and deliver a new, unique solution. So we start with activation, and we're going to talk about each of these steps in detail. So we have activate, ideate, investigate, and evaluate. And if you're confident and ready to put it out there as a fully formed product, then you deploy it and you operate, and you bring in sales. But before we go into each of the steps, if it's an infinite spiral that you can just keep going down and going down and going down, how do you start? What's your 1985 version of Windows? The first one. We start with the vision. And the vision is always going to be bigger than you're ready for right now. The vision encompasses your personal values or your values as a company, depending on if you're a solopreneur or if you work with a team. Your unique superpowers that help you impact individual people, that your magic sauce that you're bringing to your clients. The impact that you want to have in the world, and that impact could be big. Really big. And we start with the bigness so that we can come back and start where we are and build the path towards that bigness. And while we're talking about bigness, it's also your big dreams. Not only the big dreams, the where you want to see your company going, where you see your work going, but also what you want for yourself and your lifestyle, how your business supports your lifestyle. All of that is part of the vision. So now you've stepped into the vision, you've got the bigness. How do you know what to do first? And it's amazing how many people get stuck on that. And if you are feeling stuck on that, you are so not alone. If you are overwhelmed by the bigness of your vision and you say, like, I want to run week-long retreats for women recovering from trauma, and that sounds too big for me. I want to change the environment and plant trees and reverse climate change, and that sounds really overwhelming to me. I'm just one person. That's why it's an iterative process. You can start where you are, and you can take the first step. How do I know what to do first? We start with what's easy. You thought it was going to be a more complicated answer than that. It's not. Because you truly need to be present in this moment and start from where you are. So if you are wanting to put together an app that's going to help people, you need to start where you are with individuals. Before you write one line of code, before you hire a developer, you need to start where you are. What's the easiest thing you can do? You can interview people about the problem that you're solving. And if you're solving a problem for a company, it might be interviewing companies, representatives of that company. Whatever seems easy. Does it seem fun to you? Do that, for crying out loud. Are you inspired? Take the step forward. Use that momentum. Do what seems logical or fast or obvious or what's needed or what's calling to you. Because here's the thing, momentum begets momentum. You need to push that boulder off of the cliff, and gravity takes care of the rest. So if you can kickstart your momentum with what's easy, fun, inspiring, and quick, your work is half done. Okay, so now we've got what to do first. So we're going to enter the spiral now. In the activate phase, you are going to define the problem. Sometimes that means interviewing people. Sometimes your whole first spiral is about interviews, because we got to get in front of people. So we're going to define the problem you're trying to solve, and then get creative. This is the stage where we think outside the box. This is the stage where we disruptively innovate. And I want to empower all of you, too, to think of yourselves as innovators. And it's not that much of a logical jump here, because you already agreed with me that you're in design. You're building a business. You're in design. If you're in design, you have the capacity to innovate. Every human is creative and has the capacity for innovation, solving problems in new, different, more effective, more efficient ways. And also in this phase, you can set the scope, because maybe you can't. Maybe you can't move forward into building the whole vision right now, solving the whole problem. And so this is the phase where we take it out of that sense of overwhelm by the bigness of your dreams, and we get into how I can start from where I'm at. Set the scope. So in this spiral, I'm not even going to build much of anything, or I'm not going to release a service product. I'm going to interview people about this problem in my first spiral. That's enough. And in the next spiral, when I come around again, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready in the second spiral to say the scope of my spiral is to interact with individuals and actually charge them money for the service that I provide, based on all of the knowledge I acquired from that first spiral. Does that make sense? Okay. So you've activated. You're ready to go. And now it's time to ideate. Now, you were disruptively innovative in the previous step, and now it's time to execute on that innovation. So in here, we're making a transition. We're making a transition from the raw creativity, the sense of anything is possible, and we're bringing it down into grounding it into reality. This is the how. How are we going to solve the problem? How are we going to execute? How are we going to deliver that result to the client? And so it still is creative, because you're starting to build something. This is kind of the equivalent of that prototyping stage. So if you like to think of it in terms of prototyping, and sometimes prototyping takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off the need to have everything perfect right on the first spiral. Okay, but so you are being creative in that you're generating something new, but that wild creativity is now grounded in reality. And you're going to talk about actually how you're going to execute it. The third phase is investigate, and the most important part of investigation is getting outside of your own bubble and away from your desk and in front of actual people. Not just actual people, but users, clients, real people who have the problem that you're trying to solve. They're going to give you feedback. And you are going to make observations so that you can hear what they're not saying in the feedback. So it comes from both of you. The user needs to give you feedback about their experience, about how it felt to work with you, about how it felt to interact with your product, with your company. But it's also about you observing the way a user interacts with your company and says, I don't like that point of discomfort for them right there. They didn't tell me about that discomfort, but I can solve that the next time around. And here you are visible. I'm an introvert, and we like as creative people, especially when we're introverts, to sit at our desk and make the thing we're making. Here's how I'm going to solve the problem. And then it's just on paper, and it's right here at my desk. But what breathes life into the organism of your business is the interaction with other people. And so this is so key. Get away from your desk and in front of other people. And the final phase of the spiral is this evaluation phase. in the business environment, in our corporate culture, in our business culture, in our capitalist culture, pause is very underrated. Pause is not valued. We need to be showing results, we need to be moving forward, we need to be executing to the plan. And pause is not valued, but it's critical. Especially if you're going to adopt an iterative development model, you need that time to pull back and see the forest and not the trees. And check in with that overall vision and say, what did I learn and how does it change the vision? To reflect on what just happened. To tune in with those users who just walked into your business. To analyze, and yes, analyze the data that came out of your feedback and make adjustments. Because now after this, you're ready to come around the spiral again and activate anew and rescope and decide what's next. How do I move forward into the bigness of my vision from where I'm at now? Not where I was at the beginning of that spiral, but where I'm at now. And you may have some totally new ideas. This is how we create change. And this is how we step into the bigness of what's in front of us. I know a lot of people who get really psyched out by this whole concept of evaluation. I don't have time. I don't have time to stop and review. I don't have time to stop and reevaluate because pause is underrated. And you might agree with me, and you're like, no, I need to pause. I get it, I need to pause. But how? How do you do that in the midst of our chaotic world and lives and the constant drive to succeed and put out results? How do we pause? So I'm going to give it to you. The easiest review method ever. It doesn't have to be a whole day. It doesn't have to be an hour out of your day. If you need time to pause and move on, stop yourself, center yourself, and ask yourself these two questions. How did that go? And what comes next? It's easy. It's fast. If you need to go deeper, you do. And you'll know. You'll be guided by that. But don't neglect the pause. Don't neglect the reevaluation part of the spiral because you don't have time. It's so critical to the success of this iterative method that you learn from what came before and you integrate it for the future. Bonus phase. Operate. Now in that first spiral we talked about, if you're just going out and interviewing people, you may not have something that you're ready to put out and to put in front of people and to sell. But in other phases, and I'll give you an example here. So Windows is an example, right? They were able to develop that first version, and even though there was more they wanted to add, more application features, I mean the first version of Windows did not even have copy and paste functionality and things like that. Those came later. But they were able to drive revenue and build the brand and start the brand recognition and get in front of users to collect ongoing feedback even outside of the spiral so that they could have the funds they needed and really bootstrap that business into something that 84 versions later is still in our lives. But I'm not a software developer, you say. That's great. So if you're a service-based business, let's take this as every time you move through the spiral, you're moving forward in design maturity, and this is a whole other talk. So I'm not going to go too far into the design maturity thing. But here's a good example, a case study from my own business. One of the things I do for people is I help them architect their business vision. When they walk out of working with me, they have a full-blown business architecture, which is the whole vision, just what we talked about, the values, the superpowers, the packaging up their genius so they can sell it, who they want to help, and their big dreams for their life. I knew that this was a need, that people have trouble with visioning in a way that's grounded in reality so that they can actually create something in their business and get out of that sense of overwhelmed by the bigness. And so I wanted to help people with this, but I didn't know how. And so my first trip around the spiral, I offered a 2-hour coaching session with me, and at a low price point. It was actually pay what you can. So I got quite a range, actually. But I was driving revenue for my business. I was building my brand as a vision architect. I was collecting feedback about how I can help people solve this problem. Every single architecture I did was custom, and it took me a lot more hours to do than I thought. I did that for 16 people, and by the 14th one, I realized I was asking everyone the same questions, and my report that I delivered had all of the same section headings. And there was like 1 or 2 places where I would customize every single time. So when I moved into the second spiral, I wanted to create, my big vision, by the way, my big vision for this was that I wanted to create a course. A course without that, so it was scalable. Someone could buy this and take the course without my input, and it could be a standalone product instead of a service. So the second time around, I ran a group program. And I took a collection of people who had never gone through it. Actually, I had half the people had gone through it already and wanted to do it again. And I had half the people who were completely new. And I took all of the standard questions and the standard things that we went through and put them into modules. It was sort of a course, but it was really a guided program. I walked everyone through it, and I was there to answer their deep questions. And the third time around the spiral, I launched a course. Now, if you had told me at the beginning, and that whole process for me took 6 months, 3 spirals, 6 months. Now, for you, it's going to look different because you do something different than me, and that's cool. This is not tied to a calendar. You can tie it to a calendar when you understand how your business fits into the framework. But my point is that I'm moving the idea along this path of maturity from I know I can help people, but I'm not sure how, to I know how to help people so well that I can put it into a formula for them. Okay, and along the way, I sold 16 power sessions, 10 group coaching program packages, and now I'm selling my course. Revenue streams. You with me? All right, here's the big stuff. At the beginning, we talked about you need more structure, you need more flow, structure, flow, mud pit. And so here's how this relates. The spiral itself is a structure. It's like a meta structure. It's a framework, and it's a structure that allows you the space to move through the cycle, to be fluid, to be in motion, to have momentum. I like to say that structure in your business is like the poles of a circus tent. You set up a circus tent, you have poles inside, and all of a sudden magic happens inside that tent. And people walk, breathe, they eat fire, and they walk on tightropes, and animals dance, and all the magic happens inside that tent. But if the tent poles weren't there, and the tent canvas collapsed, it's a lot harder to make magic if you have tent canvas falling in your face. So that's what the spiral as a whole is. It's that kind of structure. It's the structure that holds space for you to create this thing, this fire in your belly, and birth it into the world. But even within the spiral, this is where we see the interplay between structure and flow. And if structure and flow doesn't work with you, or work for your brain, I've got a couple other words for you. The structure side is yang, and the flow side is yin. The structure side is masculine energy, and the flow side is feminine energy. And I want to talk about that for a second, because everyone just tuned out. Because the women in the room said, well, I don't want any more masculine energy in my life. And the men in the room just went, whoa. Like, you're asking me to get in tune with my inner feminine. No. What I'm telling you is, it's already there. Are you able to take a step back and look at the forest instead of the trees? Are you able to pause and bring yourself back into the bigness of your vision? That's your inner feminine, guys. Are you able to disruptively innovate? Are you able to think outside the box and solve problems in new ways and be creative? That's your inner feminine, guys. That's feminine energy. Ladies, are you able to take the bigness of your vision and ground it in reality and execute on that vision to create something new? That's your inner masculine. Are you able to be visible, to be out there, to take action, to take feedback, to take data, and to say, these are the concrete steps I need to take to create my business? That's your inner masculine energy. So instead of saying, I'm a left hand, not a right hand. I'm logical, I'm not creative. I'm creative, I'm not logical. You have two hands, people. And it's a lot easier to build a business with two hands than with one. So allow yourself to be in flow, to take steps back, to say, how does what I just learned plug in? How did that sit for me? Is that something I want to continue with? Is this something I feel gifted to offer? Should I pivot? Or steady on course? That's being in flow. That's being in flow. Are you ready to be super creative? Be disruptively innovative? You're in flow when you're thinking outside the box and you're not restricted to the old framework and the old way of doing things. Are you ready to ground in reality? Are you ready to get in front of people? Are you ready to take strategic action to bring your dreams to reality? That's structure. Let's bring some structure around that. Bring some healthy boundaries around that so that you can create it. It's all inside you. This is inside you and that is inside you. And it's a dance. It's a constant dance, back and forth. We have a tendency, there's a bigger cultural discussion here about patriarchy and masculinity, but we like as a culture to be on this side. We value that. We applaud visibility. When people are out and achieving and we see their results, we give them awards. And when people are stepping back and people are still in the dark of how am I going to solve this, they disappear. And they need to. They need to disappear because it needs to be that figuring it out part. This is where the dark happens. See, out here you're in the light. The light is good. We know the light is good. We value the light. But the dark is where the magic happens. So don't be fooled into thinking that you don't need the dark. And when you're in that moment of confusion, I know it's hard, but when you're in that moment of confusion about what I'm doing next, and is this really the path, and I forgot where I was going, that's valuable too. That's when disruptive innovation happens. The spiral is there whether you use it or not. The spiral is there whether you use it or not. So, like a sailboat, you can set your sail with the wind, and you can say, I'm embracing this. And I know that I am in a space of where I don't exactly know what the next step is, and I'm going to use that for my creative benefit. Or you can fight against it and say, no, I was supposed to be doing something right now. Doing. And you can tack against the wind. Both sailing techniques will get you there. But one takes a lot less energy. And the other benefit of the spiral being there, whether you use it or not, is that you can then, when you're in that moment of darkness, when you're in that moment of confusion, and not exactly sure how it's going to play out, take heart that you're just on the spiral. You're just in that part of the spiral. Your business is a living, breathing organism because you are a living, breathing organism. And this spiral actually, I've seen it play out not just in my business development. You know, we talked about it here really practically in like product development and designing something new. But in my professional life, I have seen the spiral. In my professional life, in those moments where I say, I don't know how I'm going to use my skills here, I feel confused. Just on that part of the spiral. I recently moved into a new role. My bio is not completely accurate. That I'm about to take on a new role. For the first 10 years of my career, I worked as an aerospace engineer, designing, building, and yes, flying unmanned spacecraft. If you've seen those beautiful pictures coming back from Jupiter, that's Juno. She was my last spacecraft. I helped her launch, fly the first part. And as I left engineering for coaching, I felt this heart calling to do this work and to be outside of the corporate structure and not putting my effort towards climbing a corporate ladder, but putting my effort towards helping people on the ground in real ways. And I felt great about that and incredibly sad that I was leaving this previous life. Both, very mixed. And I couldn't see how the spirals came together. But I was faithful to that calling, and I stepped into it, and I helped people build their business, and I helped people leave their corporate jobs. And as I did it, I built my own business, and I learned the skills, and I got the tools in the toolbox, and I stepped into my heart calling, and I built my network. And as I stand before you, I am about to step into the role of Chief Executive Officer at Grid Analytics instead of directing business development. And all of a sudden it all comes together. The spiral of my technical background, which I absolutely needed to work in a corporate environment and learn how that works and learn that type of structure. But then also the spiral of business building and what it looks like to be an entrepreneur and what it means to struggle against that and what it means to be a disruptive innovator in a way that a corporate employee can never be. And now I embark on a new spiral in my career. And nothing has ever felt so right. So allow it to be iterative, whatever it is. If it's your business, it's your business. If it's your products, it's your products. But if it's your life, it's your life. We are iterative beings. We are evolutionary beings. We are living, breathing organisms. We are not linear robots. I have 1 minute left, but we're going to review. Business growth is an iterative process, and personal growth too. Start out with your vision. Start with the calling. Start with the ease and the inspiration. And once you have that, allow these phases of the spiral. You're going to activate. You're going to scope your project. You're going to be disruptively innovative. You're going to ideate. You're going to ground that idea in reality, and you're going to prototype, make it so. You're going to investigate, be visible, get out in front of people. You're going to evaluate, take a step back and understand what just happened, what you learned, and how you can move forward next. And as a bonus, you're going to drive revenue now because you're going to take what you just did and spin it out into something that you can keep offering while you work on the next part, even before you're ready. And you're going to embrace that dance, embrace the shifts between masculine and feminine energy, between yang and yin, between structure and flow, between the light and the dark, and you're going to know that no matter where you are in the spiral, you're in the right place. You have nowhere else to be than where you are right now. So what would it be like? What would it be like if instead of struggling against what you're dealing with right now in your business, you embraced it and said, what can I learn from this? What would it be like if you embraced sacred pause in your life, in your business? And what would it be like if you realized you had 2 hands to do this work? What would it be like? Thank you.
All right, well, let's give Amy one more round of applause. And we do have a couple extra minutes. I always leave some in here, but anybody have any questions for Amy while she's up here?
Do you consider boredom as part of the stepping back and pausing? I mean, because when we were children, we had time to really, do things, and then had time to have boredom. I mean, that's when most things got created. Now we don't have the boredom anymore.
I have a couple different takes on that. One is, yes. And I think that some boredom comes out of that lack of respect for the pause. Are we online? The question was, what about boredom? What does boredom tell you about where you are in the spiral? The first thing I say that our culture doesn't value pause. So we're programmed now. We're programmed to say, like, I'm pausing, I'm resting, oh my gosh, what should I be doing? And then the boredom starts. And so yes, it could be an indicator. It could be an indicator that you're right where you're supposed to be, and you're in the pause, and you need to say, okay, boredom, not today, I'm pausing. But I also believe in emotional indicators. It's when things start to feel like they're out of sync, really out of sync, that it could be time to move into the next thing. So if you've been pausing for a little bit and you're like, no, I'm really antsy, I'm kind of bored, I really want to do this thing. It's time. Do it. Listen to that emotional indicator. So I have no answers for you, only more questions. So the question for you is, where is the boredom coming from? And that's what you have to get curious about, your own emotional state. Is the boredom coming from the fact that I'm uncomfortable, I have a discomfort with sitting still for a second, even though that's where I need to be right now? Or is the boredom coming from my inner voice telling me it's time to move?
Carol?
Yes, any thoughts or from how this is applied to millennials, to boomers, the demographics of different generations, or is there a twist there? Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it like that before.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I would like this to be a human thing, regardless of age. Of course, you're going to have the wisdom of experience versus the, I was going to say, I wanted to be careful how I phrase that. I was going to say a higher capacity to innovate in a younger generation, but that's totally a blanket statement and not a stereotype, and not necessarily true. But still, I really want everyone to recognize this capacity for these 2 sides of themselves. Even if you have a dominant hand, you have 2 hands thing. And I think that's a human thing, not a generational thing. So,
Great.
but I'll think more on that.
Thank you.
I'll think more on that.
Well, Carol, I'd say harness your old person and harness your millennial. It's your 2 hands. So, yeah, think about how you're thinking about stuff and harness it that way. So, Amy, thank you. Hopefully everybody got some stuff out of that. We are going to go around and do quick feedback. We're going to do that live, so Ben will be almost in your face with the camera here. But as we go around, I forgot to mention your forms. Make sure you fill this out as Amy instructed you. Who did it already? Amy Simpkins, right across the top. Or
That's fine. Down, up, down.
about here.
Can I also give you, if you're ready to take this further in a really practical way, and you want to start to plan out how your business iterations could go to move you from where you are right now into that big vision. I have an offer. It's free. It's my free, it's a product design roadmap, and it helps you map out what the scope of each spiral could look like for the particular thing. And so it's on the offer. It's linked off of my event page for today. It's linked off of the Boost Bid as offers page, and it's totally free. You just put in your email and you get it.
All right, so while everybody was filling that out, I was going to say, how do we interact with you, Amy?
Oh,
But
there
I
you
think
go.
you go to the website and put in your stuff, and magically you get free stuff. So I think that's a good way to do it.
Magically, you get free stuff. And also, if you want to interact personally, you can always email me, amy@amysimpkins.com. I'm happy to start a conversation.
And all of that is on the boostbized.com website too. If it's not there, harass me or Linda, and we'll make sure we do the introductions that way. So while you're filling out the forms, I want to go around and do the allies as well. So Linda, what can we do to interact with you going forward?
Well, you can have a chat with me and hang out and we can have a little discussion. I love to learn more about people, and that's pretty much it for now. If you like some amazing photography, you can also talk to me.
All right, Carol, do you want to talk about not the events, but just what DaVinci is and how to interact with DaVinci?
Yes, DaVinci, we're a future think tank, multifaceted. We rent office space here month to month, private offices, co-working, we collaborate. The theory is we collaborate and innovate better together than in isolation. Love your get out there and talk to real people. We're a coding school. We also have mini workshops and different events.
Yeah, which we'll come back to in a second. So.
Great.
Ben, behind the camera, turn it on yourself. No, don't just keep walking behind it. On yourself there. How do we interact with you going forward?
Oh, okay.
No, I don't want to be behind you.
Just interact with me. You can find me on,
Okay.
soon, you'll find me on the Boost page because I'll fill out the info.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you will.
All right, like with me, just reach out through the Boost Biz page, and I'm happy to help businesses with their marketing, with their operational stuff, saving money, or if somebody wants to just be able to make a little side money, I can do that too. So reach out to me through the Biz page because I am actually on there. Ben's behind the camera, by the way. All right, so we're going to go around the room. Again, your name, your company name, and then what is the one thing that you can take action on today from what Amy talked about. So, who wants to start? Oh, I will. I'm going to get out and talk to more people. It's the only way to really figure out what you're doing and if you're doing it properly, and learn how to improve on what you have, because other people have better ideas than I do. Hate to admit it, but sometimes people are smart. All right, we'll go backwards.
Backwards?
Yes, because we started with
Oh,
so.
Amy,
We're going backwards this time.
I think the biggest thing I took a lot of things today, but the biggest thing I took was at that moment of confusion in my business when I'm thinking, what am I doing? Where am I going? And I'm thinking, maybe I need to do something else. That I can pause. I can take that sacred pause and say, oh, this is part of the spiral. This is where I need to reflect. So, Amy Collette with Positively Powered Authors.
Janet Huffman with Pure HR, and this is really awkward. Pure HR Consulting Services. I think I starred here on my notes. Interaction with others brings life into your business. That's amazing. I'm also introverted, and so to get out and talk about my business or to get out and market or network or whatever isn't the easiest thing, but knowing that what you're doing is really impactful, not only to yourself, but to your business and potentially to other people as well, I think is huge. So I think that's awesome. Thank you.
I'm Joyce with Juice Plus, and I think there were two things that, confirming that everyone goes through, that motivation and then confusion, and that's all part of it. Also, get out there and talk to people. That's an important piece.
I'm Renee Schaller, and I'm with World Financial Group, Transamerica, and my takeaway is to do what's easy and fun, I've kind of realized that I am where I'm supposed to be in my business. I mean, because I started really, really passionate, really focused, and then got confusion and stagnant. And so I'm where I'm supposed to be, so just to do what's easy and fun for right now.
Hi, this is Linda again. So for me, it's to embrace that pause as well, because I always think I have to go and do stuff all the time. So I will learn to take a break.
My name is Chelsea Humbaugh. I'm with Big Buzz and Viv Marketing. My biggest takeaway was to embrace the chaos, essentially, and the shift. I work and want everything to work in a very linear fashion, and it's not realistic. So that was a good sort of reality check for me.
Oh, I'm Marvell Lawson. I'm with Center for Information Design. And I put everything in one piece. I am never bored. But I have decided that what I need to do is get more outside feedback, because I give myself feedback constantly. So I need feedback from outside of my head, which is probably how I can make more money.
I'm Alan Markowitz. My company is called Pixels with Purpose. I'm a full-service digital marketing and web development agency. From the meeting today, I would say it reinforced the impulse I had a week ago to get out of working at home in my basement, which I did for a year after working in the corporate environment and realizing that I'm a people person. I can't do that. I can't work in isolation. So I got an office here at DaVinci, and I'm an evangelist for it. And it's made a tremendous difference in terms of my structure. I go in here from work in the morning, and I go home at night. It's my time for myself. I'll leave the business here. And I've already been networking with people and making new contacts, and it's been great. And when I went to your website this morning, there was a button, watch the video, live stream, and it didn't work. I went to page not found. So you can use my services.
So I'm Nils Levine with Optimize. This was a little different than what I was expecting it to be, but there was actually some value. You know, I'm kind of about process improvement, which is a lot of spiraling and things like that. And I have a process in my business development that, and I guess my big takeaway is you can use it to develop your business, but you can also use it to develop parts of your business too. So you can have lots of spirals going on, and I need to apply that to my business development process as I'm developing that. So thank you.
Great. Wow. There are so many things. Probably my favorite is a business and life is constantly evolving. It's not a destination. We're changing, tweaking, growing, learning from the past, but preparing for the future. Well done, Amy. Thank you.
Ashley Sims with Let Me Help You. And I also thought it was fantastic. I'm very glad that I made the trip up here today. And I am going to take a pause to think about my vision. I'm very focused on today and tomorrow, and not so much the long-term piece of it. So I'm going to allow myself some time to do that. Thank you.
All right. Well, that is the end of our feedback, so we're going to sign off Facebook Live. So thank you for joining us online and for the people in the room. If you're frantically taking notes,